Welcome in, everyone, to Football Friday, presented by Football Addicts Anonymous. Looks like it's just me today, so short show on hand. Not too much going on this week. We'll get into the NCAA news. Big news happened yesterday, as well as Wednesday. But let's get this thing rolling here. So we're doing the NFC North preview today. That will be at the end of the show. So like I said, NCAA news, big time stuff going on. Wednesday, the NCAA approved rules to sort of lay out the plan of how name, image, likeness is going to work as it pertains to the actual universities and players in division, in all divisions of the NCAA and college athletics. But those were done Wednesday. Yesterday, states that had put nil legislation in place, those went into effect yesterday. So players in those states can start to make money off of certain things. So the NCAA rules a little bit. The money can't be made for athletic performances. It has to be anything that's non-athletic. So they can't get paid to play, essentially. Couple things that the NCAA listed that are okay to get paid for. Any social media accounts, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, Twitch, etc. Signing autographs, teaching camps or lessons, starting their own business, being featured in advertising campaigns. All of that is allowed, as well as many other things. And to help the athletes manage all of their nil stuff or their endorsements, they can sign with an agent to help them out with doing all of that and managing it. So that was pretty big. I know there's been a couple football players coming out already with personalized logos. DJ Uiagalelei, the quarterback for Clemson, he came out on social media signing with an agency to help him manage all of his endorsements that will be coming, considering he is one of the top players in the country. Moving on to NFL news here. Another big thing that happened yesterday. So the NFL fined the Washington football team $10 million as a result of the league's investigation into its workplace culture. Dan Snyder will not be working in the day-to-day operations. They named his wife, Tanya Snyder, the co-CEO, and she will be running the day-to-day ops in the facility. Dan Snyder said he will be focusing on a new stadium plan, as well as the naming issue that they're trying to get settled coming up next year. The NFL also doling out fines for OTAs. They fined the Niners and the Cowboys $100,000 those two head coaches, Kyle Shanahan and Mike McCarthy, also got fined $50,000 each. The Jaguars, they were fined $200,000, and Urban Meyer was fined $100,000 as a result of OTA violations. Also, with these fines came forfeiture of practices. So the Niners, they were ordered to cancel their entire final week of OTAs this year, last month. And then the Cowboys, they are going to lose one OTA practice in the first week of next year's OTAs. And then the Jags, they're going to lose two practices next year in the first week. The NFL also announced it is canceling the supplemental draft for the second straight year. For any of those who don't know, the supplemental draft is put in place for players that have draft statuses change after the draft. We've seen Josh Gordon get drafted. He was probably the most notable recent draft pick in the supplemental draft. We'll have more on Josh Gordon in a little bit here. The Bucks, they are going to induct former defensive coordinator Monty Kiffin into their Ring of Honor on September 16th. That is a game against the Atlanta Falcons. Monty Kiffin, the constructor of the Super Bowl winning Bucks team in the 2000s, with John Gruden as the head coach there in Tampa. The Saints, big money coming. They signed offensive tackle Ryan Ramczyk to a 5-year, $96 million deal with $60 million guaranteed. He's going to make $19.2 million per year, I believe it said. $19 million signing bonus. And this actually drops his 2021 cap number down to $5.55 million. Good for him. One of the best right tackles in the league, if not the best. Just like I said, Josh Gordon, more on Josh Gordon here. He has officially applied for a reinstatement again. I believe this is probably the third time he's trying to get reinstated. Came back twice before, just could not handle it, could not quell his substance abuse issues. He's been being randomly tested by the league, and he has passed all those tests. So we will see. He was suspended indefinitely in 2019. So 2 years later, we'll see. The Jets and Packers today announced they will host joint practices this fall in Green Bay. So it'll be a LaFleur reunion with Matt LaFleur, the head coach of the Green Bay Packers, and Mike LaFleur, the offensive coordinator of the New York Jets. So it'll be interesting, a family affair in Green Bay for training camp. And finally, we have the Hard Knocks team for the 2020-2021 training camp. It is the Dallas Cowboys. Lot of storylines. America's team. You know, we got Dak coming back. We got a lot of big personalities. Amari Cooper, Zeke, and of course, Jerry Jones. So, should be interesting to watch. And I know I will be watching every week, even though I hate the Cowboys. All right, that is all the NFL news we have for today. let's roll into our NFC North season preview. We got Devontae Adams, Dalvin Cook, Roquan Smith, and Jared Goff. So, starting off with the Green Bay Packers, I have them 11-6, winning in New Orleans week 1. They win a Sunday nighter or a Monday nighter against the Lions week 2. They lose in San Francisco, though, on a Sunday nighter week 3. They've had issues beating San Francisco the last 2 years. So they lose also against the Steelers. Week 4, week 5, they win in Cincinnati. They beat the Bears in Chicago. They beat the Washington football team in Green Bay. And then they go to Arizona on Thursday night and win there. They go to Arrowhead and they lose to the Chiefs. They beat the Seahawks in Green Bay. They beat the Vikings in Minnesota. Lose to the Rams in Green Bay. Bye week. Home against the Packers for Sunday Night Football. Home against the Bears for Sunday Night Football. That's a win. They lose in Baltimore. They beat the Browns in Green Bay. That is a Saturday game on Christmas. And then they beat the Vikings on Sunday Night Football, Week 17. They beat the Lions in Detroit. That gets you to 11-6. Key games for me. Week 1 against the Saints. We don't know. We don't know who's going to be the starter for New Orleans. So that's why I think the Packers can win. Obviously, this entire Packers season is still up in the air because we don't know about Aaron Rodgers. That's why I put Devontae Adams instead of Aaron Rodgers, because we just don't know yet. There's still a long way to go to get to the season. And that's a lot more time that everyone can just keep on speculating whether Rodgers will get traded or not and to where. But week 1 against the Saints is my first key game. Then you have 2 primetime games. They go 1-1 on my schedule there. The next key game I have is Thursday night in Arizona. It's a win. The Seahawks game in Green Bay, I think, is a big win. The Thanksgiving game against the Rams, that is a loss in Green Bay. And then they also have a Sunday nighter against the Bears, a Saturday game against the Browns on Christmas, and a Sunday nighter against the Vikings. So all in all, they have 5 primetime games. I have them going 4-1. So Packers fans should be pretty happy. 11-6, probably a little bit lower than they want, but considering they have had 13 and 3 years back to back. But schedule's tough for the NFC North this year. Playing the AFC North. Playing the AFC North and the NFC West. That is a tough pill to swallow. So. Depth chart for the Packers here, though. Obviously, like I said, Aaron Rodgers, Jordan Love, Blake Bortles, those are the 3 quarterbacks for the Packers right now. Will it be Aaron Rodgers or will it be Jordan Love? I don't know. I seriously don't know. It just seems like Rodgers doesn't want to be there. Jordan Love apparently has looked pretty decent from what has come out of Green Bay. We'll see. Moving to the running backs, nothing changing. Aaron Jones, A.J. Dillon. But I have circled Kylan Hill, 7th-round pick for the Packers this year out of Mississippi State. I really liked him. He's a pass catching back, which I think could help take the load off of Aaron Jones in the passing game. Third down guy, that's going to be his role with the Packers. Also has return ability, I believe, but they have other people there. Wide receiver, 2 guys I starred, rookie Amari Rodgers. So they will have one Rodgers, if anything. I'm sure Packers fans hope there's 2 A Rodgers on the field this year, but they will at least have one because they drafted him this year. But Amari Rodgers, slot receiver, we'll have to see. Because it has seemed like the past 2 or 3 years, the Packers just believe so much in Alan Lazard, so much in Marquez Valdez-Scantling, and so much in Equanimeous St. Brown that they haven't done anything at the receiver position, really. They finally draft one this year. We'll have to see. He's going to get a lot of work on special teams as well, though. Amari Rodgers is their starting punt returner currently. Another receiver I had marked here, Devin Funchess. I know. A lot of people don't even remember that Devin Funchess is on the Packers because he opted out last year. So that's why I start him, though, because he's an X factor. He hasn't played in 2 years, but he is a big-bodied receiver that can help whoever the quarterback is in the red zone win jump balls. Now, Devontae Adams can do that, right? Devontae Adams can do everything. But when they double-team Devontae Adams, you can work in Devin Funchess to get jump balls in the end zone. So, last guy on offense I have circled, rookie center Josh Myers out of Ohio State. Kicks Elgton Jenkins back to left guard. Actually, no, it doesn't. Elgton Jenkins was left guard. Josh Myers is replacing now Chargers center Corey Linsley. So we'll see. That's another thing that makes the Aaron Rodgers not coming back to Green Bay thing kind of interesting, because it's kind of like Big Ben in Pittsburgh, where he was hoping to retire when Marquise retired, and it didn't work out. So Ben's going to have a rookie center in Kendrick Green this year. Like I said, that's another factor that is pushing Rodgers away, probably, is not having a veteran center that he trusts on the pivot. So defensively, not that much. Not a lot changed. First guy I have starred, Devondre Campbell, who they signed a couple weeks ago. He is the backup to Chris Barnes right now at right inside linebacker. I wouldn't be surprised if Devondre Campbell was playing a lot at the inside linebacker spot next to Kamal Martin, because Kamal Martin, I think, is supplanted or is solidified in the inside there. I've said this before. I'm not so confident about Chris Barnes. Devondre Campbell, though, I think has the experience. He was on the Atlanta Super Bowl team. Hasn't really done much recently, though. That's the only thing. Last guy I have marked, Eric Stokes, first-round pick of the Packers this year at corner. He's slated as the fourth corner right now. Jair Alexander, Kevin King, Chandon Sullivan ahead of him. Eric Stokes, I like that he's there, because I'm not so sure he's ready day one to go out and be an outside corner. I think it would benefit him to work in the dime and nickel packages, sub packages, play there for the first couple of games, and then we'll see, because I know Kevin King has struggled. especially last year, Kevin King was pretty poor performance. So if Kevin King struggles again early on, Eric Stokes, I think, take a couple games, play in those sub packages, get your feet wet, and then we can see Eric Stokes move to a permanent outside position opposite Jair Alexander, and then Packers should be okay from there. Fantasy-wise, I don't have Chris here today to tell me, to remind me about doing fantasy. So Aaron Rodgers is still a top 5 quarterback. They throw the ball. They like to throw the ball. And he's going to throw at least probably 30 touchdowns every year. So he does have rushing ability as well. Not as much as some of the other guys like Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, and Josh Allen, and Kyler Murray as well. But I still think Aaron Rodgers is the best pocket passing fantasy quarterback that you'll get. Because I'm including Mahomes in the mobile quarterback conversation. So now, if Rodgers isn't there, Jordan Love's fantasy value, I wouldn't. He's going to have value, though. People are going to take a chance on him because of what they have on offense. I would say if you can do it, get Rodgers early on. Get your backup quarterback and hope that Jordan Love is available real late. I know it's risky taking 3 quarterbacks because it takes up a roster spot that you could have used on a skill position player, but that's how I would do it. If you're going to go for Jordan Love, I'd get Rodgers, your backup quarterback, and then Jordan Love. Because then you have trade value with Jordan Love if Rodgers leaves. If he doesn't, then you just drop Jordan Love and pick up someone else. So running backs, Aaron Jones, top 5 fantasy running back as well. Catches, runs, scores touchdowns. A.J. Dillon might hamper his touchdowns a little bit this year, but I still don't think that's enough to drop him out of the top 5 running back conversation in fantasy. And A.J. Dillon, I'm not so sure he has RB2 value. Like I said, the Packers usually do like to throw the ball. And it wouldn't be a bad play to draft him as your 4th running back. But I'm probably staying away from A.J. Dillon. Wide receivers now. This is where it gets tricky after Davante Adams. But Davante Adams, I think, is probably in most people's minds the number 1 wide receiver. It doesn't get better than Davante Adams. And again, everything hinges on Aaron Rodgers. Because if Rodgers isn't there, I don't believe Davante Adams is the number 1 wide receiver in fantasy. The number 1, not a wide receiver 1, the number 1 wide receiver. But as it stands right now, Rodgers is there. So go and draft Davante as the number 1 wide receiver. He should be going in the 1st round easily. If Rodgers isn't there, Davante Adams, I still think is a wide receiver 1. I still think he's probably going to be a top 7-ish wide receiver, but he'll go in the 2nd round instead of the first. Other wide receivers for the Packers. Now, Allen Lazard, I like him. He's probably the only other draftable wide receiver for the Packers in my mind. Getting wide receiver 2 targets right now anyways, I think he could be a capable wide receiver 3 for you, and be in contention for that flex position every week until or unless we see Amari Rogers step in and really take away his and MVS's snap counts. I think Allen Lazard is the safest other receiver on Green Bay. MVS might get drafted in deeper leagues, but not in most leagues, I would think. Tight end, Robert Tonyan. Starting tight end, especially with Rodgers. Rodgers loves Tonyan there. He's probably the second guy that Rodgers looks to after Devontae Adams. And he's going to score touchdowns. Really the only option at tight end in Green Bay. Mercedes Lewis is the backup. So I like Tonyan. Definitely tight end 1 material. Defensively, Packers are so for me. I mean, they have the pieces. Their secondary really needs to figure it out. And the linebackers, the inside linebackers scare me. So that I think they might have trouble in the run game and stopping the run, which would be a tough thing to do considering what their schedule looks like. The Niners are going to run the ball. Saints have Alvin Kamara. Steelers are looking to reestablish the run with Najee Harris. The Bears are going to run the ball with David Montgomery. You got the Vikings twice with Dalvin Cook. And then you got the Ravens and Browns as well that are going to run the ball. So that's what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That's half of your games that are against tough run teams. Granted, you could probably say 8 because we don't know how the Steelers are going to work out. But yeah, I would say at least half the games for the Packers defense is gonna be a tough out against running teams. So I would probably put the Packers in fantasy defense. I think they are in the top half of the league. They're on that borderline, though, of being a startable defense. I think they're just outside, like 13th, 14th. So I think people are going to draft them, though, because it does get tough when the top defenses go, and then you're struggling to find quality defensive depth after, the top 3 or 4 defenses go. It's kind of a cluster after that. So let's move on to the Minnesota Vikings. I'm wearing my Brett Favre Vikings jersey. It's the only NFC North team jersey I have, so that's why I have that on. But Vikings, they start out with a win in Cincinnati. They lose in Arizona week 2, lose to the Seahawks, lose to the Browns, and they beat the Lions. They win in Carolina. They're going into the bye week at 3-3, so not too good for the Vikings, but does get a little bit better in the back end. They beat the Cowboys. They lose in Baltimore, lose to the Chargers in LA. They do beat the Packers. They beat the Niners in San Francisco. They win in Detroit. They lose to the Steelers. They win in Chicago. They lose to the Rams. They lose in Green Bay, and then they beat the Bears. So that gets you to 9-8. Now, key games for me. Week 2 in Arizona. I was hesitant to have the Vikings lose to the Cardinals. But I do think the Cardinals are a team that could give them a run. And that's why I had them losing to the Cardinals. I think Kyler Murray, year 3, will be a lot better. And also the defense improved on paper anyways. The next game I have starred here is Week 6 in Carolina. Now the Cardinals, Panthers, Chargers, which is another game I have starred. I think, the Vikings, Cardinals, Panthers, and Chargers are all very similar in my mind. They just seem like they're in that next tier, the wild card tier, I'll call it. Teams that I believe should be fighting for wild cards this season. And it's tough to pick the games, especially now, but we got to do it. So that's why, I have them beating the Cardinals, but I have them losing to the Cardinals and then beating the Panthers and then losing to the Chargers. Like I said, they could flip those and they could beat the Cardinals, they could beat the Panthers and beat the Chargers, or they could lose all 3. I just don't know at this point. Next one I have starred is the Cowboys game. That is on Halloween, Week 8. That is a Sunday nighter. I had them winning. It's in Minnesota. It'll be rocking in Minneapolis. So, and by that point, I think we'll know what the Cowboys are. It'll be a really good game, I think. I think Kirk Cousins, Dalvin Cook get it done, though. Next one I had started was the Chargers game, but I already talked about them. So we'll move down to Week 14. That's another primetime game, Thursday nighter, home against the Steelers. Steelers defense is too good. I think Big Ben will be able to carve up the Vikings secondary, and we'll see how the Steelers are doing with the run game at that point. But I don't think the Vikings are to the Steelers level, even though the Steelers are a little bit depleted from what last year's teams look like. Next one is the next week. It's a Monday nighter. So big long break from Thursday night to Monday night. Week 15, that's at the Bears. That's a win. We'll probably see Justin Fields at that point. And whoever the interim head coach is. And then the last one I have, Week 17. That is another primetime game, Sunday nighter in Green Bay. That's a loss. It's always cold, tough. Packers are going to be fighting for playoff spots still, seeding-wise. So, and also, Week 17, being the Packers are 11-6, Vikings are 9-8. That could be another deterrent. That could get the Packers to win the division that night. So 9-8 for me with the Vikings. Let's go to the depth chart here. Kellen Mond, new backup quarterback to Kirk Cousins this year. And I don't think Kellen Mond will be the starter until 2023. So, but it is noticeable that they have a new backup this year in Minnesota. Next guy I'm going to go to is Amir Smith-Marset, rookie out of Iowa this year. Jumped had crazy numbers at his pro day, along with his teammate Brandon Smith. But he's slated as the fourth wide receiver right now, behind Chad Beebe, Justin Jefferson, and Adam Thielen. I think, why not? Why couldn't he fight for that third spot against Chad Beebe? I'm more confident in Amir Smith-Marset and BC Johnson than I am Chad Beebe. So we'll have to wait and see how that wide receiver 3 spot shakes out for the Vikings this fall. Next I have is Irv Smith Jr., first year full season as the starter at tight end. Kyle Rudolph is in New York. So it's him and Tyler Conklin as the top 2 tight ends. It sucks because Irv Smith, the Vikings are a running team. So Kirk Cousins does like tight ends, though. Kyle Rudolph had pretty decent seasons with Kirk Cousins there. So next two linemen here, offensive linemen. Christian Darrisaw, their first-round pick at left tackle, taking over for Riley Reif, who is now in Cincinnati. And Mason Cole, the backup center and left guard, who was traded to the Vikings from the Cardinals this offseason. Christian Darrisaw, it's always tough with a rookie left tackle. And he is not in the easiest division to go against pass rushers. You got the Smith brothers in Green Bay. You have Robert Quinn, Khalil Mack in Chicago. And in Detroit, you have Trey Flowers, Romeo Okwara, Julian Okwara. So, and also, with the schedule, you're going to get Chandler Jones in Arizona. You're going to get Myles Garrett and Jadeveon Clowney from the Browns. Brian Burns with the Panthers. Joey Bosa with the Chargers. Nick Bosa with the Niners. And then you're going to get TJ Watt with the Steelers. And Aaron Donald with the Rams. So even though, Donald's an inside player, but there are stunts. So yeah, it's not the easiest schedule as far as pass rushers for this rookie goes. Mason Cole, though, very solid interior backup for the Vikings there. I like their line. I think the weakest spot is probably that left guard spot with Dakota Dozier. But still, Garrett Bradbury's a stud at center. Ezra Cleveland is in his second year at right guard. Brian O'Neill is one of the better right tackles. So, but like I said, Mason Cole is a solid interior backup. So. Defensively, Dalvin Tomlinson comes over from the Giants. He will start next to Michael Pierce in their base 4-3. Like that, it gives them definite run-stopping ability in the inside. Dalvin Tomlinson's a big man, as well as with the re-signing of Sheldon Richardson. They have a pretty good trio of defensive tackles there in Minnesota. So I don't think they'll have an issue stopping the run. Pass rush interior might be an issue, but I think that's where Sheldon Richardson helps out the most. Defensive end, Janarius Robinson. He is a rookie there, backing up DJ Wonnum, a second-year player at right defensive end. They need to find someone opposite of Danielle Hunter to help take pressure off him. Or to go get the sacks that the double teams on Danielle Hunter are leaving open. So we'll have to see. They also have Patrick Jones, another rookie out of Pitt there. So I look, they're hoping that the young guys can step up on the other side of Danielle Hunter. Linebackers, Nick Vigil, his first season with the Vikings, coming over from the Chargers in free agency, also previously with the Bengals. He is the weak side linebacker starter right now. His backup, though, Chaz Surratt, draft pick this year. I absolutely love Chaz Surratt. I think he should be the starter over Nick Vigil. I wouldn't have an issue with Vigil starting the season and Surratt supplanting him during the year. That's the thing. There's only one spot open. Eric Hendricks and Anthony Barr aren't going to get benched. So, secondary here. Let's go corner. New starter opposite of second-year guy Cameron Dantzler. Patrick Peterson coming over from the longtime Cardinal. We'll have to see what Pat Pete still has left. Over 30. I'm not so sure about it. It is definitely a solid veteran presence in a very young secondary at the corner position anyways. Harrison Smith's 32, so he's a vet in himself. Also, new additions this year for the Vikings to the corner position. Bashaud Breeland has been solid throughout his career wherever he's went. Was in Washington, played in Kansas City. So I like him in that secondary there to go along with, like I said, Patrick Peterson, Cameron Dantzler, Jeff Gladney. Also, they brought back Mackenzie Alexander after his stint with Cincinnati. Didn't do much in Cincinnati. Was really good with the Vikings when he was there. So he kind of fills out the rest of that secondary. Safety, new starter to go along with Harrison Smith. Xavier Woods comes up from Dallas. I'm not that big of a Xavier Woods guy, so we'll have to see how it works out. But they do have a rookie backing him up, Josh Metellus. But I think, and then that's it for the defense. Special teams here, kicker battle in Minnesota. They released Dan Bailey, signed Greg Joseph, also signed rookie Riley Patterson. And I like Riley Patterson to win it, actually. Riley Patterson had a big leg at Memphis. Greg Joseph's leg definitely is not as strong as his. So I wouldn't be surprised if Riley Patterson wins this. And we have a couple rookie kickers this year among the 32 kicking spots. So Greg Joseph also hasn't played since 2019. So that is the Vikings depth chart. I think before we go into fantasy, the Vikings are really thin. They will be hard pressed if they get hurt a couple positions. Just looking at their linebackers is not a lot. Actually, there is. It's just not listed as the backups. Troy Dye, Tough Borland. I like those guys over Blake Lynch and Ryan Connolly. Safety, like I said, I don't like the backups too much there. Corner, I like. Defensive end is not that strong. Or actually, no, I shouldn't say that. They're all right on the D line. The backup wide receivers aren't the greatest. And the tight ends behind Irv Smith are so. So, but fantasy-wise, starting off Kirk Cousins, no, don't do it. You do not want Kirk Cousins as your starter in fantasy. He will be someone's starter. I'm sure he will. But you do not want that to be your team because it will lose for you. Dalvin Cook, top 5 running back. In an offense that loves to run the ball, use play action, he's easily a top 5 pick this year. Alexander Mattison. Now, this is intriguing. Unlike the Packers situation, they use Mattison because, like I said, they do run the ball a lot. So Alexander Mattison is not a bad RB2 selection. If you can get Cook and Mattison together, that would probably be a solid handcuff situation. Wide receiver, you're drafting Adam Thielen and Justin Jefferson. Justin Jefferson broke out last year as a rookie. Adam Thielen is still Adam Thielen. I think they do kind of limit each other, though. So I think Adam Thielen, low-end wide receiver 1. Justin Jefferson is a high-end wide receiver 2. Both of these guys are probably going to be gone before the end of the 6th round, I would think. Tight end Irv Smith Jr. Now he's interesting. Like I said, they like to run the ball. I think the wide receivers are the first targets. So I probably wouldn't draft Irv Smith. He probably will be able to carve out a starters type fantasy season. I just couldn't bring myself to do it. So he wouldn't be terrible though as a backup tight end. Defensively, it's kind of like the Packers. I mean, they have pieces. I'm just not so sure about the pass rush. Like I said, opposite Daniel Hunter. They got to get something worked out there. I like the linebackers. Secondary is pretty solid as well. I think they're going to be right with the Packers, though, to start the season for me. One of the two is 13. One of the two is 14. I think they're right on the edge. I don't think they're a top 12 starting defense. They could be, though. Like I said, it's so close. And I forgot to say about kicker for fantasy for the Packers. Mason Crosby, solid as always. He will be one of those veteran kickers that doesn't go right away when the kicker run starts. But he will be able to give you a solid season, and he will end up as a top 6 or 7 kicker. Now, like I said, in Minnesota, it's a tough situation when you have a kicker battle. So I would not draft either. I would, even though I said Riley Patterson's probably going to win it in my mind, I'm not drafting Riley Patterson. Sorry. All right, that's the Vikings. Let's move on to the Chicago Bears. 6-11 for me here. They lose Sunday night, week 1, in LA to the Rams. They beat the Bengals, lose in Cleveland. They lose against Detroit. They beat the Raiders in Vegas. Lose to the Packers, lose to the Bucks in Tampa, lose to the Niners, lose in Pittsburgh. Bye week. Then they lose to the Ravens. They beat the Lions on Thanksgiving in Detroit. They beat the Cardinals. They lose in Green Bay. They lose to the Vikings and then they lose in Seattle. They beat the Giants, and then they beat the Vikings in Minnesota. So, tough season. I don't think Matt Nagy's going to survive it, nor will Andy Dalton. But key games for me, obviously week 1 is a primetime game. That is Sunday Night Football in LA against Matthew Stafford and the Rams. That's a loss. I also think the Raiders game is big. They're 1-3 going into that Raiders game on my schedule. Beating Vegas in Vegas in an afternoon game, 4:05 Eastern start. I think that's a big win early on to get them to 2-3. But it doesn't help that they have 4 just excruciatingly hard games after that. Packers, at Bucks, Niners, at Steelers, which is my next game. That is a Monday night game. That is why it's a key game there. I don't think they have any chance in Pittsburgh. Next game I have starred, Thanksgiving at Detroit. That's a win. I think that's a pretty solid win for them at that point in the season. Just trying to salvage what they can. I think Matt Nagy's gone by then. And Justin Fields is a starter coming out of the bye week. Next game, back-to-back at Green Bay. That's a Sunday nighter. And then home against the Vikings. That's a Monday nighter. Both losses. It's a tough schedule down the stretch for Justin Fields. But yeah, they're primetime games. So that's why I had to list those there. It's really weird though. They are one of the teams that just flips back and forth. They're away, home, 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 away. So it's really weird. It's because some of the other teams have home stands and away trips, but no, the Bears are just going back and forth. A lot of traveling. So depth chart, not that many. A lot on offense, just one on defense. So start out quarterback position, obviously. Andy Dalton is the starter. Justin Fields listed as the backup right now. Nick Foles is the third string. No one that I know believes Nick Foles will be there by week 1, get traded somehow. I think the Bears will have to take on salary and possibly give up a draft pick as well in order to get rid of Nick Foles, considering what his salary is. Because he's guaranteed $4 million this year, $5 million next year. So, running back position, don't need to talk about the 2 guys at the top, Dave Montgomery, Tariq Cohen. They're solid. But Damian Williams comes over from the Chiefs this year. And also, Khalil Herbert gets drafted by the Bears. Really love Khalil Herbert in a tough situation with 3 guys ahead of him. Virginia Tech. He has the ability to be a kick returner. They have Darnell Mooney there right now and Anthony Miller. But I'm not so sure that they're going to stay there. At least Darnell Mooney, because he's a starter. So we'll be a pivotal guy on special teams and I think they will keep 4 running backs. So Damian Williams, though, like I said, Super Bowl champ from the Chiefs. He was solid when they won the Super Bowl. Had the game-winning touchdown. And now he's gone. He's cast out to the Bears now. So he'll have a hard time getting on the field with David Montgomery and Tariq Cohen. They like to pound the rock with Montgomery, so not so sure how much time Damian Williams is going to get this year. 2 wide receivers, actually 3 wide receivers to talk about here. 3 new guys. Damiere Byrd coming over from the Patriots. Marquise Goodwin coming off a weird transaction where he was on the Niners, got traded to the Eagles during the 2020 draft, opted out of 2020, and then reverted back to the 49ers based off a clause in the trade because he never played for the Eagles, giving the Eagles a 2021 7th-round draft pick. So, yeah, that was just a weird transaction, but Marquise Goodwin now with the Chicago Bears. I like Damiere Byrd. He had a pretty good season with Cam Newton in New England. He had a good season despite Cam Newton, I should say. And Jarrett Stidham and Brian Hoyer and whoever else threw the ball last year for New England. But Marquise Goodwin's going to give them more speed, like Darnell Mooney already has. And then Daz Newsome, listed way down the depth chart right now, but him and De'Ami Brown with North Carolina last year were fantastic. And I have a hard time seeing him not being able to make the team. I think Marquise Goodwin might not make it, even though he's listed as the 5th wide receiver right now. Depends if they keep 5 or 6, because Javon Wims and Riley Ridley also are in contention for one of the last spots. So, last guy on offense to talk about, their rookie left tackle, Tevin Jenkins out of Oklahoma State, 1st-round pick. They traded back, or a 2nd-round pick, I should say, 2nd-round pick. Justin Fields, 1st-round pick. 2nd-round pick, though, is Tevin Jenkins for the Bears. Solid value there. They needed a left tackle after they released Charles Leno. Or they released Charles Leno after they drafted Tevin Jenkins. But, I think he could be all right. Like I said, it's not the easiest division to block on the outside. And the Bears' schedule with pass rushers, like I said, Aaron Donald is an interior player, but he can rush on the edge if need be. You have Myles Garrett, Jadeveon Clowney with the Browns, like I said. The Smith brothers in Green Bay. You have Trey Hendrickson now with the Bengals. Shaq Barrett, JPP with the Bucks. Nick Bosa with the Niners. TJ Watt with the Steelers. Trey Flowers. The Aquara brothers in Detroit. Chandler Jones in Arizona. And then Azeez Ojulari with the Giants. So, defensively, only one guy. Like I said, not much change on their starting defense and backups either. So, defensively, though, Desmond Trufant is the new starter outside with Jalen Johnson, their second-year player there. He was with the Lions last year. I think Desmond Trufant's a little washed up at this point in his career, so I'm not so sure he is going to be great for them, but they don't have much else. It's Jalen Johnson, Desmond Trufant, Artie Burns, and then it's Duke Shelley, Kendall Vildor, Tease Tabor are the top 6. So that's tough. Their safety depth is very solid, though. Tashawn Gibson, Eddie Jackson, Jordan Lucas, Deion Bush, like all 4 of those guys there. All right. Fantasy-wise, not touching the quarterbacks. Dynasty, obviously, you're going to draft Justin Fields. If you need a quarterback, that is. If you need a young quarterback for the future. I would not even be close to drafting Andy Dalton. As even a backup. No, not doing it. Running backs. Dave Montgomery. Oh, my God, I love David Montgomery. He rolled me to the championship game last year. Did not win, but he got me there anyways. So that was very solid season by Dave Montgomery. We'll see how much they like to ride him this year. I'm sure they will once again, considering what they have at quarterback. So, but Dave Montgomery, I think, is probably a 2nd round, 3rd round running back, though. I don't think too many people think highly of him. So Tariq Cohen, PPR guy, can draft him later with a flex spot. So I wouldn't do it though. He's had too many injuries recently for my liking. Allen Robinson though. Allen Robinson is a stud, top 10 wide receiver. He'll go in the second round at the latest, I would think. Maybe even the first. Depends how many running backs go. So, and Darnell Mooney, I think, is a sneaky pick. Not necessarily a sleeper, because he had a good rookie year last year. But I think Darnell Mooney could be. All right, I guess I'll use sleeper. That's fine. Could be a great value pick in the mid rounds as a wide receiver too. And I think all of these guys, skill position guys for Chicago, elevate if Justin Fields gets on the field. So tight end, Cole Kmet is listed as the starter this year above Jimmy Graham. I don't really like either. Cole Kmet didn't show enough last year in his rookie year. Maybe it's different this year in his second year. I'm not so sure. I'm not drafting either. So defensively, like I said, the secondary the corners scare me. But otherwise, it is a very solid defense. And I think that they still should be ranked in the top 10 and as a starting fantasy defense. Well, it's a tough schedule, though. Tough schedule. So I'm not sure. Kicker is Cairo Santos. Had a solid year last year with the Bears. I'm just not so sure how much the Bears are going to score on offense. So that I think limits Cairo, but I would be okay with starting him. Not necessarily the guy you want, but if you have to, I would feel comfortable with Cairo Santos being my starter. So that's the Chicago Bears. Finally, we are on to the Detroit Lions. I had them finishing last in the NFC North and in contention for the number one pick next year. I don't believe in the Lions at all. I mean, Jared Goff comes in. Their defense is suspect. They brought a lot of new guys in. Yeah. And the receivers are not the greatest. They're going to have to run the ball, which is going to be tough because they're going to be down. Like I said, their defense is not that good. So it could be, though. It has potential. Anyways, though, week 1, that's a loss against the Niners. They lose to the Packers, lose to the Ravens. They do beat the Bears in Chicago, lose to the Vikings, lose to the Bengals, lose to the Rams, lose to the Eagles. Bye week, they lose to the Steelers, the Browns, and the Bears. They lose once again to the Vikings. They do beat the Broncos, lose to the Cardinals. They beat the Falcons, lose to the Seahawks, and then lose to the Packers. So, a bunch of games I have starred on here. They have 2 primetime games, or not primetime games, 1 primetime game and Thanksgiving. But, yeah, I have them losing to the Packers on Monday Night Football week 2. Shouldn't be that great of a game unless Aaron Rodgers is not there. Losing to the Bengals week 6. It's an intriguing game. I think that might be a shootout game not much defense. But the Bengals, I do believe more in the Bengals than I believe in the Lions. So Week 8, losing at home against the Eagles. Again, it's a tough. We don't know what Jalen Hurts is going to produce this year, so I can see the Eagles beating them, though, like I said, with the suspect defense. Then we have Thanksgiving. That is also at home. That's a loss to the Bears. And, yeah, I mean, I believe in the Bears defense, especially against Jared Goff. I think they can get some turnovers from him. So, and then I have the game against the Broncos. That's in Denver. That's a win. Now that's intriguing because that could be Aaron Rodgers at home against the Packers if he's traded to Denver. So that looms large. Or at home against the Lions. What am I saying? Aaron Rodgers could be the quarterback for the Broncos in that one. If that's the case, the Lions lose. So, but if it's Drew Lock or Teddy Bridgewater, I think Jared Goff can sneak one out in Denver there. And then the only other game I have marked is the Falcons game in Atlanta. That's a win as well. I'm just not confident in either defense, really. The Lions defense gets a little bit above the Falcons, though, for me. And I think the Lions can squeak one out there in Atlanta. So 3-14, I record for the Lions here. Depth chart wise, again, quarterback Jared Goff, new starter coming over from the Rams in the Matthew Stafford trade. Just a terrible situation. I mean, it's depleted at the receiver position. The offensive line isn't bad. And you do have TJ Hawkinson and DeAndre Swift as well as Jamal Williams. But I'm not confident in Jared Goff at all. Running backs, like I said, Jamal Williams coming over from the Packers. Jermar Jefferson drafted out of Oregon State this year. I like Jamal Williams as the change of pace back. He can run and catch like he did in Green Bay. Jermar Jefferson is a third down. He's going to be your pass catcher. Also will be able to help in the return game if he is needed. Wide receivers. Tyrell Williams, Rashad Perriman. They come in as free agents. I think Tyrell Williams opted out last year. So he is coming off a 2-year, a year off of football. So what to see? He's slated as number one receiver right now, coming from Oakland or Vegas now, I should say, Vegas. But, yeah, I'm not that confident in Tyrell Williams as being your number one wide receiver. Rashad Perriman, coming over from the Jets, didn't have that great of a year last year with the Jets. But, you know, he's a speedster. He'll be able to help Jared Goff in the long ball with the long ball, but it's, again, a tough situation for Rashad Perriman to go to. Other wide receiver, Amon-Ra St. Brown, rookie, drafted this year. I think he'll be a starter by the end of the year. The third receiver right now is Quintez Cephas, and St. Brown's listed as the fourth. I have no idea why Amon-Ra St. Brown wouldn't be able to beat Quintez Cephas for that third wide receiver spot, and possibly even one of the top 2 guys as well. I like Amon-Ra St. Brown coming out of USC, and I think he could be their best receiver ultimately. Tight end, new addition Darren Fells, returning to Detroit after he previously played there before, backing up TJ Hawkinson now. He's not going to do much. He's going to be a blocker mostly. So, and then final start guy on offense for me, their first round pick, Penei Sewell, number 7 overall, playing right tackle this year out of Oregon. That's what scares me about Penei Sewell. He played left tackle every single season at Oregon, and now he's switching to right. Yeah, it was a tough situation because Taylor Decker was already solidified at the left tackle. So we'll see whether Penei can make the change or not. I think he will be able to, but it's a tough transition, kind of like we talked about last show. So defensively, D-line, 3 new guys here. Michael Brockers, Levi Onwuzurike, and Aleem McNeil. Brockers getting traded from the Rams. Loved that. Loved that trade for the Lions. Next to nothing going to the Rams for him. So he's by far the best guy they have on the line. Levi Onwuzurike out of Washington, a rookie. Loved him coming out. Had a great Senior Bowl. And he will start with Michael Brockers at the defensive end positions in the base 3-4 for Dan Campbell. Aleem McNeil, also a rookie, backing up John Penasini right now at nose tackle. I think he can do it. I think he can get the start. John Penasini has been a career backup, and Aleem McNeil flashed in the couple of times I saw him. With NC State this year. So the next guy is Alex Anzalone, backup inside linebacker to Jamie Collins Sr. I didn't even remember that Alex Anzalone signed with Detroit from New Orleans. So I think they have a solid 4, even 5 inside linebackers with Derek Barnes there as well. Jalen Reese-Maben, Jelani Tavai, Jamie Collins. But there's a solid depth piece, Alex Anzalone there. And then finally, 2 corners, Quentin Dunbar, Efeatu Melifonwu, the rookie. Dunbar was very solid, has been solid wherever he's went. With Washington and with Seattle, now in Detroit. It's weird to see him not starting, but Detroit has Jeff Okudah. They love Amani Oruwariye. So Quentin Dunbar is definitely a serviceable slot guy, though. Melifonwu, though, rookie out of Syracuse. Liked him coming out. Well, to see how he performs. I mean, they don't have much after him, so he's going to need to step up and perform well in the sub packages. So, fantasy-wise, Jared Goff, not touching him. Not even close to being on the radar for me. So, Not even going to spend that much time. Running back, DeAndre Swift is an intriguing option right now because of the whole pending Ty Gurley situation that we don't know if he's going to sign or not. So I think DeAndre is still going to go relatively high in probably the second to fourth rounds. I could see DeAndre Swift going. Jamal Williams, though, I think he'll go as well in the draft, probably later as a mid-tier RB2. DeAndre Swift for me is a low-end RB1. Wide receivers, it's tough. I mean, Tyrell Williams, Brashad Perriman are gonna get drafted just based off the pure target numbers. Someone has to get the targets. Those are going to be the guys that get them. I think Amon-Ra St. Brown could be a sleeper, though. A rookie sleeper that could produce more than what he's projected. Because like I said, I think he's probably the best receiver out of all four of the top four. So I would like him. If you don't like anything in the last couple of rounds, go with Amon-Ra St. Brown and just, throw a dart at it. So tight end, TJ Hawkinson. He's another tough one to project because Matthew Stafford loved TJ Hawkinson. He has to prove that he can stay on the field. But I love Hawk as well. Even with the switch to Jared Goff, I think Hawk could possibly be the leading receiver for the Lions this year. With that in mind, I'm putting Hawk as a top 6 tight end. And he's, like I said, probably going to lead the Lions in receiving. Wouldn't surprise me, anyways, with the lack of quality that they have at the receiver position. So like him. Defense, no. Don't do it. Do not touch the Lions defense, please. For your sake and mine. Don't touch the Lions defense. Kicker. Now, I forgot to say this when we were going to the depth chart, but they do have 2 kickers there, and I guess it's going to be a battle. I don't really think there is that much of a fight. Randy Bullock coming over from the Bengals. Matthew Wright has bounced around, been with the Steelers a couple times. But Randy Bullock's going to win it. He's the veteran, long time Cincinnati Bengal, and he's very solid. I have no doubts that he will win it. Now, fantasy-wise, I wouldn't touch Randy Bullock, though, because the Lions are not going to score that much. I just have no confidence in Jared Goff. So, yeah. All righty. That is the Lions for you. So, just to recap, I have the Packers winning the NFC North 11-6, Vikings pushing for a wild card at 9-8, Bears at 6-11, Lions fighting for the number 1 pick at 3-14. Next Friday, we will be talking NFC South, Shaq Barrett, Sam Darnold, Taysom Hill and the like. Just because I live in Georgia, I guess I'll have to say a Falcon, so I'll just go Calvin Ridley. There you go, Falcons fans. But we'll be doing the AFC South on Monday, NFC South next Friday. That is the show for today. I appreciate y'all for tuning in. I know it was kind of boring with only me being here, but it's all I could do. Don't forget to follow us on all our social media at FAA Podcast and FAApodcast.com. Check out our merch. Our sale Our 20% off sale is still going on a couple more days till July 5th on Tuesday. You can still get 20% off our merch. It is promo code Rusty B-Day, all caps, RUSTY, B as in boy, D as in dad, AY. So thank y'all, and